Okay, thank you for tuning into Stampscaping 101. Here's yet another one of my experiments on purple cardstock. It's a purple folded cardstock. Got a little bit of pigment ink here, but it's a folded cardstock. You know, this can either be the front of your card or the interior of it, but creating a scene that works in conjunction with another scene as the full page spread like that. Playing around with a lot of pigment ink and different white media. I found some kind of white pencil. I don't know what it is. I was looking for my white Prisma one and couldn't find it, but different types of media, the white gel pen, Colorbox pigment ink, Hero Arts pigment ink, Versafine black, and in addition to the Marvy dye-based black. Fairly minimal, media applications and techniques on here, but when kind of combined with each other, can really form a kind of a formidable set of techniques and marks on here. A lot of the pigment ink on this one I played around with a paintbrush this time around, so just kind of experimenting with a lot of different touches on this type of surface here, and just having a lot of fun with it. So anyways, hope you enjoy it if you choose to watch it, and if you have any comments or questions, just add those to the comment section below. Okay, these purple folded cards are so much fun to work with. I really feel like testing out some other compositions and some other ideas on it, using the same kind of process, but taking a look at some different, or taking a look and seeing what results I can come up with. Alright, I'm thinking about this kind of backlit, really strong lighting scene with this deer kind of standing in between a couple trees and the moonlight, or a full moon behind it. And let's see what that will look like here. And I'm going to be using a couple of tried and true images right here. My Tree Trunk and Tree Trunk Trio stamp. Let me see if that'll be enough space here. Something like that. There's going to be a lot of foreground down here because you want these trees to kind of go off the top of the page, so you don't have this kind of abrupt ending to them. Alright, so let's go with the Versafine again. Versafine has been proven to create a really nice, strong impression on this, and fast drying on this matte cardstock. So I don't know if it's cardstock, this matte paper. And let's see if you've watched any of the recent 2 videos. I will have mentioned kind of what paper this is. It's just a 5x7 folding card, so Pinot Noir. It's really purple, but this 2-page spread is 10x7, so each, kind of folded dimension is a 5x7 inch. Kind of a larger format than I'm usually working in, but for this purpose, it's kind of fun. I should do it really on a 4x6 or something like that, just so I'm not spending so much time on the same scene. But oh, I don't know. It's these are really fun, so I don't mind spending the time. And it's really kind of a period of discovery as far as what I can come up with here. Just don't know you know, what I'm going to see from moment to moment. That's always a really exciting process to be engaged in, working with the, I don't know, it's not real new because I've done these before, about a year ago on dark blue paper. And I really like that, but it does feel new because I was just kind of experimenting with that, and I haven't done it for a year, so I'm kind of having to relearn the entire process after kind of what I figured out in you know, a couple scenes from last year. Okay, so here's these tree trunks right here, just kind of establishing this, and again, this is the folded card dimension here. All right. I'll clean these off more thoroughly later, but let's see. Let me add in some grass texture. This is called Wavy grass. Sedge filler's my kind of go-to grass filler stamp that I've been using for years, but I just wanted something with a little bit more, I don't know, kind of texture and direction, so I can never have enough textures to play around with. I love them. So, I don't know. This one's all about subtlety, you know, from going from kind of grass texture to grass texture. Overlap, kind of change your angle slightly. And it's just a filler, you know, for your land elements. Unless it's snow or something like that, then you probably wouldn't want, you know, this kind of more texturized grass. Go for something like the snow texture. But we have something like that. It doesn't read super strong, especially you know, against when you have black against really dark purple. But it kind of sets a foundation for what we're going to be adding into the scene later in the form of lighting and shadow, additional texture, etc. Alright, this is the deer stamp. I kind of stand between these two like so. Yeah, I got a little on my fingers here. I usually don't do that. When I have a larger stamp and a smaller pad, I always take pad to stamp. This one's, I don't know, it's roughly the same size, so maybe I should do this. I got a little on my tack and peel up there too, so just I'll be a little bit careful about not rocking this. Just give a nice flat impression. And you'll notice I'm not doing any masking. I don't need to do any masking at this point in time. There might be a call to do a little masking if I have something behind these trees. But I don't know. I don't know if I'll need that or not, or want that. I'll see. Okay, but just kind of building it up one step at a time. Maybe a pine tree or two. Look good in here. I do have this quote stamp that I have in mind as well that I think I'll want to add in here. Alright, let's go with the pine tree. I think I do like the look of this. And I'll go with the same black, just kind of establishing kind of everything with this right now. Alright, now I'm going to mask this off. I'm going to have this tree coming out of the grass, so I don't want that base of that trunk there. Okay, so you just kind of mask off a portion of it, and it'll look like the tree is kind of more embedded into the grass, as opposed to you know, sticking out right on the top of it. Here's something like that. All right. Let's build this up a little bit more now. I was talking about maybe not needing to do any masking, but I think I will have this behind this tree, but masking is just, you know, going like that. Okay, I don't need to do any, you know, serious masking with things like post-it notes or anything like of that sort. Okay, so have it roughly like so. Put a little bit more pressure around the paper towel, the ripped paper towels, and kind of undermask a little bit so you don't get this kind of halo type of effect, you know, where it's, you know, this big white line is between your two objects that you're masking. Alright, maybe another one back here, or I can have another one here in the foreground, or down here. I think here might look weird. How about some in back of this ridge, or whatever it is. Just mask that off, okay. And I'll change the height of it between this tree and the one next to it, right there. Okay. Although this is one continuous scene, I am treating it in some ways like two separate ones. You know, just the mere kind of folding aspect of it. So it should work. I want it to work separately, but also in conjunction with the other half, I guess you can say. Okay, so you can see it, you know, scenic stamping, you can really utilize portions of the imagery for what you want and exclude other portions for what you're not using at that time. So rubber stamping and scenic stamping is one of the ultimate applications of the rubber stamp in terms of the repetition of imagery, the fact that you can utilize certain portions for what you want and exclude other areas for what you don't need at that given time. Unlike, you know, some other types of stamping where, you know, if you leave out a certain portion of it, it would look strange, you know. But scenic stamps, if they're drawn well, and the thought of that is taken into consideration in the process, you should be able to get a lot of mileage out of any given image. Okay, so just kind of building this up, making it look a little bit more rich and kind of involved. And you can just kind of keep building it up accordingly, okay? This is a large tree, theoretically, but you can have these kind of smaller ones, you know, kind of read as little saplings, like that. Alright, so, easy enough. What is this? 1, 2, 3, 4 designs, and it's really filling up a rather large area. Okay. I can already, I'm imagining the process of adding lighting to this, and it's kind of an exciting prospect for me right now. I'm imagining this moon in here and having it play against the trees and the ground in here. Okay, now let's build out a little bit of foreground in here too. I'm kind of working in a different process here than much of what I do on glossy cardstock. Glossy cardstock, I might leave a lot of this imagery that I'm adding in here kind of for the end, but like foreground, for example. But on this one, I'm just kind of, I feel it's fine just to establish it right off the bat. These dry so quickly, I don't need to worry about, having to wait for it to dry, like on glossy cardstock after I've laid down a lot of tones, so yeah, we'll see. Okay, just adding in some foreground here. It needs some kind of variation, I think. Okay, kind of building it up a little bit more and more. Always kind of leave an opening, but I don't know, I guess I don't have to. This scene here can look more like we're kind of just observing this from kind of within some, a thicket of brush, bushes or something like that. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll close it off, which I almost never do. But why not? Let's give it a try and see what it looks like. Kind of more, we're kind of hiding, observing this from, from a little bit of cover, especially at nighttime, maybe. It's just like silence. Okay. All right. There's that. One of my favorite, just kind of textural additions are these tiny rocks here. Just a little bit, add a little bit of variation into the scene. Okay. There is something from a compositional aspect that I don't like about this right now. And that's this kind of real, heavily balanced structure. I mean, it's like 1, 2, 3, you know what I mean? Usually working in rule of thirds a little bit. This too could be a little bit higher, for the rule of thirds. Everything is a little bit too symmetrical, but remember, this scene is kind of, it's like this scene right here. And then there's this one right here. And I have plans for this space right in here, as well as this one over here. I plan to put this quote right in here. So, I need to leave this open as is. And I think when I add these two kind of players within this space, it'll kind of balance things out from a compositional kind of, I don't know, harmony aspect. Okay, so let's see. I have this moon. I'm trying to decide where I want to put it. I think just, I don't know, just straightforward, just throwing it kind of right in between those trees. I'm not going to measure it or anything like that, but I think that should do just fine. Alright. I have this one, I always check all of our stylus tools before they go out. This one had a smashed plastic thing where ClearSnap sent me that out. Like that, so I'm just going to use this as an applicator. You can use whatever you want, just any kind of sponging, method should do just fine, or I don't know, you can use paintbrushes or something like that. But here's the thing, I'm going to try to vary this slightly, okay? Just kind of wiping it, tapping, wiping. A little both. And I'll vary it a little bit. The moon is, can kind of have its mood or whatnot. Its variation. Alright, so let's take a look here. I don't know if I'm done, but is that right there? It's our moon. Our moody moon. Let me try something too. This Hero Arts Hero Hues Unicorn White. Let's see if, I know it's like super juicy, so, but I think there's a little bit of a more opacity to it, a whiter white than the color box, so maybe using both of them for their strengths would be good. Yeah, I can see it's a little bit, or I don't know, quite a bit lighter or more opaque. It's still translucent, but a little bit more opaque than the color box one. So I might want the color box one down here. I don't know, I know a lot of you have kind of multiple, versions of the same thing, so, why not use it like that? See that? There's that nice transition of it. You don't need it, but if you have it, you can kind of play around with it. Okay, so, let's see. Let's play around with this here. I'm going to try some different things too. I've been using the Colorbox Stylus tools, which is something that I always use on my dye-based inks, and I was telling someone today that, I might not be using the right thing, my ideal thing, so why not play around it? Let's try a little bit of a paintbrush here. This is a B, no, it's a number 8. I thought that was a B. Number 8 brush. It's just, I don't know, it's not a flat head. I forgot what these ones are called. It's flat like this, but no, I just grabbed this because it's what I happen to have. It's not one that I thought, okay, that would be perfect for this. I'm just kind of playing around with this here. Let's go with the color box. I don't want to go too dark with this. Every time I'm kind of trying something out. I was telling someone today on Facebook that asked me about it. the application process, is it kind of hard or whatever? And I said, well, when I'm applying this, the feel of it kind of feels like a, if you'd imagine putting ink or like a oil pastel, like a liquid form oil pastel. That's what it kind of feels like in a way. All right. Okay, I'm just going to see. There's these tufts on this grass here. Okay, you know that texture. And so what I'm doing is I'm going on the top of that and kind of dragging my way down. So I'm seeing if that'll work well, and I don't know if it will or not. The paintbrush, yeah, seems like it's pretty good, you know, in terms of this grass, you know, and there's hairs on this brush, so maybe it's better than just like a sponge texture. I don't want to get too caught up in doing real specifics, though. Okay, I want to work whole areas of, you know, light and dark. I don't want to get caught up on like blades of grass or something like that. So as I add this down here, I want to make sure that I'm, you know, kind of covering the whole. Now what I mean by that is I have light kind of shining through these areas right here. So I'll try to make, you know, some shadows kind of come out this way. So I want like this area in here to be lit, okay? And I don't want to just get caught up on the idea of the tiny little, you know, little details of like, you know, grass blades or something like that. So I do want to come in here and kind of establish a little bit of this lighting as a whole. Okay, so I'll bring it down like this or so. And we'll have this tree casting some light. Now, you don't have to get so kind of particular about it, but see, this is roughly where the tree trunk ends, right down here, and I'll have that lighting kind of coming out this way, right over here. You know, here's the base of this tree, so maybe I'll create the shadows coming out roughly like this. Okay, so it's kind of going off in perspective a little bit, or a lot, I don't know. And keep in mind, maybe that deer's, you know, creating you know, some shadow in here as well. So I'll leave a little bit of space for that. But let's take care of this kind of lighting as a whole. I guess the lighting scheme. We're taking care of the lighting scheme here. Okay. All right. So see that kind of developing right there. Right now over here, I mean, I have these trees in here, but maybe this tree over here, you know, there would be some lighting coming kind of down in this area. So but here's the kind of fun thing about doing this, what I'm finding, okay? Now see, this is a little bit too light right there, right? But it's like oil pastels where you can just kind of smudge it around and just kind of, you can just kind of work with it a little bit, you know, or a lot, if you get it too dark. And then, I always have my dye-based inks, you know, I'm going to go back over this lighting again, so it's, you know, not add this down, add white, and that's it, you know, it's a more kind of fluid process than that. You can kind of go back in, and if you have areas that are too light, then you can add more dark to it, you know, with colored pencils or dye-based inks over it. I can use some of the Versafine black and, you know, just ink that up. So I always tell people, you know, when I'm, you know, mostly working in dye-based inks all the time and glossy cardstock, a lot of people think, okay, you know, they like the look of the glossy cardstock, as do I, but there's certain things that matte paper really affords you the ability, you know, do. And that's add a lot of different types of media that just don't work very well on glossy cardstock. So colored pencils and pastels and oil pastels, and speaking of that, you could use those on here as a multimedia type of thing. But anyways, here I'm just kind of getting this lighting, the general lighting established right now. Okay. Going in and kind of adding a few more specifics, you know, maybe make it some of the areas around this areas up here that are, you know, closer to this moon and maybe reflecting more of that light. Some of those areas a little bit lighter. Get a little bit more lighting going on here. I'm getting a little bit more bold with my application here. Kind of start off a little bit more tentative, you know. It's kind of weird working with pigment ink and having it dry so fast, unlike glossy cardstock. Alright, now let's see if I can get some kind of different atmosphere in here. Trying to think if I should use my brush or stylus tool, or let's use the brush here. Alright, so with this moon up here, why not have a little bit of haze? Let me see if I can get this going. Let me practice on a piece of paper so I can see what I'm doing here. Okay, so if I'm going like this, just kind of getting this haze going, okay? So my moon will be right here, and I think I'll work out from the moon like this, okay? Kind of pulling out from the light and trying to get this kind of tapered wipe of I don't know, some haze in the back. I might have to mask off my tree here. Tree trunk. So getting a little of this, you know, so that moon, I mean, I think it looks fine as is, but kind of building up a little bit of texture like this might be kind of nice as well. It might give the that area up there a little bit more dimension. Something like that. Not quite. Let's work it a little bit with, yeah. I think it's time for another new Q-tip here. Oops. Okay. I want a nice soft applicator and kind of a dry brush touch with this look here. Let me try to get that moon to have a little bit more dimension. Okay, and have it glowing a little bit more. Kind of just softening the edge. And I'll create some of their kind of a little atmosphere around it, like so. Yeah, not great, but let's see. How about this too? I want some little bit of this kind of mist on the horizon. I'll do it in the foreground too here, around these trees, I think. I have this quote here that I'm planning on using. The clearest way into the universe is through a forest, wilderness. I'm trying to read that up backwards. But there's this other quote stamp in our Scenic Sentiment series that says it has moonlight is sculpture. And I'm thinking, I don't know, that would be a real powerful quote in this one as well. We'll see how it goes. I can always change my mind. That's one of the beauties of having not, you know, added everything in at this point in time. Okay, let's soften the area at the base of this tree. Okay, let's put in a little bit of haze here. We can do that around the base of this deer as well. I always like real dreamy looking scenes, and I really like how this pigment ink works on this dark matte cardstock. It's really there's a strong influence, let's say, you know, just for the fact that it's, you know, it's such a dark surface that I'm, you know, applying this white onto, so it really stands out. I find that it's very, very forgiving too, doing this on here. Like I said, it's not doing this, but it's it does have the feel of something like, you know, pastels in a way. So I've added too much around here, but you know, I can kind of really spread it around, and the texture on matte cardstock is, you know, the textures that you achieve are, they just seem to blend in, you know, with the medium really nicely. So it's just kind of fun to kind of play around with a different media and different looks. And I think that by doing these two things, in some ways, it's almost the opposite of working on glossy, or some of the other medias. I think it can enhance, like my use of pigment ink on glossy now. I think, I don't know, doing something like this where it's, you know, such a major application process on this, it can only kind of improve my, I don't know, my abilities on different surfaces now, such as the glossy cardstock. Okay. Here's my lighting going on, see that? Try to push one of these trees and back, you know, a little bit farther back, so I'll kind of add some tone to that one. And like here, maybe this little one's kind of obscure it a little bit more. Put a little on this side of this tree, just kind of to bring a little bit of illumination back there. Okay. Using a very dry brush touch back here now. It feels like waves coming in or something like that, which, you know, fog often looks like as it kind of rolls in into a, you know, location. Alright, now, let me see, let me go back over this moon now again. I've kind of spread it out a little bit, but it's drying a little bit on me, and it's becoming a little bit less opaque, so let's add a little bit more, yeah. Pigment inks really dry much darker than what they look like when they've been freshly applied, so you might have to go in and add a few layers. So a little bit darker. Okay, so, or a little bit brighter. I generally want my light source to be one of the lighter things, you know, within a given scene, space, whatnot. Okay, so we're working in not all general areas, but, you know, somewhat. You know, I hit some specifics in here too, but, alright, I found this pencil here. I was looking for my white colored pencils and I can't find it. This one feels like it's a pastel pencil or something like that. It's Schwan Stabilo CarbOthello. I don't know what that is. It feels a little bit chalky, okay? But you can use a white colored pencil. I just can't find mine. I have a bunch of them somewhere. And I just don't see it around. But Okay, let's go in here and let's just start adding a few little highlights here and there, or everywhere. Alright, so we have our sides of our trees here that can be capturing some of that light. We have some objects right here, the deer itself. Let's start to bring out some of these areas a little bit with, use of some highlights. You can't like just highlight one or two things if it's a highlight, if it's lighting. Like, see, if I do something like that on the side of that tree, it really makes it stand out, but it stands out too much. So you have to kind of bring that same idea to other objects in here. Okay, so let me use a little bit of a lighter touch. Okay, so it kind of illuminates those trees now, where they're, reflecting that light back of the moon. I can hit the tops of these tufts a little bit more with this grass. And like I said, the colored pencil will do the same type of thing. So we're getting a little bit of variation here. It's kind of the opposite of shading. You're kind of hitting the top sides of objects that are reflecting light. Okay, so just in general, where do you put it? If the moon's right here and this tree is to the left of it, then you can put, in my suggestion, just be a little bit, little touches on the right side of it. This one's a little bit more directly underneath the tree, moon. The tree's underneath the moon, so I can put it wherever. And this one way over here. The shadows, you can put a few little highlights on it. A little tree right here, growing right next to my tree trunk. I almost can't, that's almost too much. That's alright though. Okay, so on this one, moon's over here, trees to the right of it, again, left hand side. Sometimes a few little touches, really does the trick. You don't need to do too much sometimes. Sometimes too much is too much, I guess with something like this too, especially if you had a kneadable eraser, you can just erase it right off. I'm sure it'll come right off, no problem if you add too much of this. You can kind of like rub it too, and it makes a little, it rubs some of it out, and it becomes a little bit more translucent. The paper, will show through. Alright, so see, anyways, we're kind of getting those trees to stand out a little bit more. Lighting is becoming a little bit more prominent and defined. Here's this tree out here. It's moving kind of a little bit farther away from the moon. Distance-wise from the moon, I mean, it'd be the exact same, but I'm talking about it from a visual standpoint of this. Seeing it's farther away, so, maybe I'll have it a little bit less, highlighting on it. This one's a little bit closer. Let's get a little more bold with that. Okay, so here's this deer. How about a little bit of a highlight, like, on its back or something like that, or on its horn. I need a pencil sharpener. Something like that. Ears. Okay, so it's kind of capturing some of that lighting coming from the moon. Some rock down here reflecting some of that lighting. Okay, there's some leaves as well. Okay. Illuminate some of these leaves. You can use a white gel pen too. That'd be great. I have a purple violet Prismacolor pen that will do the trick as well. Okay, so a little bit of horizon line. All right, let's go with the violet on some of these branches. It's not a violet light that's hitting these, but sometimes I find that the white, maybe it stands out a little bit too much. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I like, let's go a little dot of lighting on some of these leaves. If I can hit some of these branches a little bit. Okay, there's one scene, then the other. Okay. Now, I can certainly use some dye-based ink applied in here. Maybe I'll do that. I can also just do it with some Prismacolor, okay? Here's just a black Prismacolor, okay? Alright, so if we have highlighting right here on this side of the tree, then maybe on the side of the tree that is farthest away from the moon, what I'll do is I'll just kind of darken in this side, and you know, hopefully the idea is there's a little bit more of a lighting, you know, scheme being developed by shadow as well as highlights then. Okay. Setting over here, this side of this tree. Okay, now you see where we have the highlights coming through like that, then maybe down here I will do the same but with darkness, you know, to create a little bit of a stronger shadow down this one. Okay, so the tree is now kind of casting its shadow. The one thing that's going through my mind here in this process is I'm thinking, I wonder if it would look better with dye-based ink to, you know, create that shadow in here, but let's just try it with let's just go with this, you know, pencil and see what that looks like. Okay. I really like anchoring my trees, or just general objects, down with some shading, like right at the base of the trees. I I'm really getting the crease of this page getting defined by the use of the colored pencil around it, but I don't care if we can see the crease. Okay. Okay, alright. Now, I think where I will add a little bit of a dye-based ink tone, let's go with the black, okay? You can use the Versafine as well. But this is just a makeup brush, and let's go for the four corners and just kind of create a strong vignette, okay? Four corners being kind of darkened a little bit, or a lot, we'll see. Alright, now this goes on really smooth. The colored pencil goes on, you know, with texture. So, I don't know, you can have a little bit of both if you want. Getting a little busy down here, so I'm going to run some tone right around here, but primarily in the corners here. Okay. Just to kind of mellow out all that, you know, super busy texture. It's not too obtrusive because I'm stamping black on really dark purple, but if this, you know, if all that brush were stamped on black, it would be, I mean white, it would really stand out as a very, very busy texture. So I try to unify a lot of that just with the use of some tone. I think this is benefiting from a little bit of this dye-based ink in here. It's just really a very smooth application of it. You can sponge it on with whatever you have. These cosmetic sponges work very nicely for this purpose. Now on these I don't want a ton of ink, so not a lot is being applied. If I'm doing a big slathering of some very, you know, vibrant tones that, you know, are laden with ink, then the color box tools work really good for that because they're absorbent. This one is not. You can get some color in here. You can build it up, but okay, kind of creating a stronger shadow here. Trying to. As you can see, this is a very, very forgiving process when doing this. Yeah. Black on really dark purple, it doesn't leave a really strong, you know, contrasting application, so I can just go around like this and it's not really a problem. But that lighting's starting to come around a little bit more, isn't it, with that the use of that black in there. So I think it's working pretty good. Like I said, you know, all this is kind of an experiment to me, or is an experiment. So, still learning. Still kind of discovering. It's always really exciting when you're kind of learning new things, right? Stampers are always, I don't know, as far as a group goes, I find them to be the most, some of those open-minded, everyone can't wait to get the new thing, you know. They love the idea of kind of learning new techniques and whatnot. Okay, let's get some more tone down here just for some variation in the sky. Alright, some good shadow, light and shadow working in here. Maybe I can use some of this texture here to get a little bit of variation in that grass, maybe. You know, it's like doing that masking of, you know, to create mountains or hills in the background or whatnot. Yeah, I mean, you can use that technique everywhere if you want to, or anywhere. Very fun. I'm adding more of this than I thought I would. I kind of like the look, and it's, you know, you can just keep adding it accordingly, you know, however much you want. Okay. One of the things I'm looking at right now and trying to assess is whether or not I need some more crisp elements in it. Okay. All right, now I've lost some of my highlights here. Let me just go and reestablish them a little bit, because I went over a lot of this with my black dye based ink, so just kind of reestablishing some of that. So, like I said, it's kind of a process of, you know, more of a circular process than a linear one. Okay, so I'll add some highlights and I'll add some ink, then you go back and add some more highlights if you want to, and you know, it doesn't have to be, okay, we did our highlights, now you go to that, and it's, you know, you can't go back or something. Okay, now, am I ready for my quote stamp? Oh yeah, one of the things I was going to do was I was going to kind of create a little bit of stronger shadow for my deer. Just have some of these lines going out, and I don't know what would start. I just kind of fake it, you know. Something like that. Okay. Just eyeballing it. Okay, I need a test print or two before I do this. Let's use the hero one. This surface of this is so uneven from all of my Q-tip work, kind of smashing it into the surface. So the Hero Hues one is a little bit more flat at this point in time. Okay, let's see. Okay. Test impression number 2. Okay. The pigment ink pads are always so juicy, you know, because we just don't use a whole lot of the ink out of it, you know. Unless you're just doing some heavy embossing or some other type of, you know, technique on it than what I do. Alright, I can't see. My camera's right in front of my head, so I'm going to have to bring this under me a little bit more. Okay. That's why I do a couple test prints, you know. I don't use a positioner. It would be better, probably, but I just do a couple test prints just to get the, I don't know, the orientation of it down. And see if I'm stamping it, you know, straight enough. And that's straight enough for me. Okay, the clearest way into the universe is through a forest wilderness. It's kind of fun. Okay, let's change up here a little bit. Let's use this gel pen. Let's see if I can add a few little very detailed marks with this. Okay, and I can. This is working great. Okay. I'm going to try and add a lot of detail, like really subtle detail, okay? But what it is it's crisp, you know. The using this real thin ballpoint, I can get into certain areas a little bit easier. You know, there's still a tiny little touch rather than that pencil that I was using. I like the pencil too, but this is just in conjunction, you know, in addition to that one. I can get these really tiny little dots. This is a 0.7 millimeter Uniball Signo white gel pen. See, it's just kind of adding that extra bit of opacity and highlighting to illuminated areas, so just like a shadow doesn't have to be a uniform shadow. You know, you have lighter shadows and darker shadows. You can have light and lighter highlights. Okay, so it's all about variation and just using your different media for, you know, what suits the mark that you want to create the best. All right, now some of those little highlights down these leaves just were looking kind of strange to me with the that whatever type of pencil that was. So this is kind of adding that little tiny mark that I kind of desired even more. Okay, so it's just kind of putting little highlights down here on these leaves. Okay, looks a little busy, but this is what it looks like, you know, from arm's distance. You know, we don't look at pieces like that close, you know, but all those little things I think add up, you know, to the overall look and, you know, subtlety. So I think some of these, you know, might be reflecting some of the moonlight. And we can put some over here. Maybe all these trees would be in the shadow of this, you know, tree over here, but put some on these trees. Yeah, this larger trunk. I think I just ran my hand across that quote stamp, and it's nice and dry. It's so unusual working on media that dries so fast. Okay, I like that tree with a few of these little highlights back there. It's really fun. See that little tree, how much more dimensional it is, you know, with a few little highlights on it. Alright, how about some stars around in here? I'm doing this, you know, you wouldn't see so many stars out on a full moon, but the quote does say universe, and so it stands to reason that we would, you know, see some of these stars, you know, you know, in conjunction with a quote such as that. Plus, adding stars it's just a lot of fun. I'm going to add a little bit of a larger one here and there. I don't go within the text there, otherwise it, you know, might look like a dot or, you know, off an eye or something like that. Okay, let's do a Uniball Signo violet dot. Okay, let's see if it even shows up. Barely. It's, you know, just a little bit more of a very subtle texture, like a distant star. It's all within the same color scheme, so why not? Alright, where's our Q-tip? Let's see if we still have... I don't think there's any more pigment ink left on there, so... Kind of just adding some more of the color box frost white to this. Really blot it off a lot. Let's see if I can get a small little kind of glowing hazy star in here too. I'm kind of hitting some of those ones that I drew in a little bit larger. See that? Little twinkly lights. And one of the things that I do too, when I do that, a lot of times I'll do some of these little highlights with a little bit of a glowing type of touch down in the landscape as well. Okay. A little bit more fog and mist maybe here and there. Alright, that looks good to me. One more thing, I think. Let's go to that Versafine and let's go to that brush. Again, that stamper at the Carson Convention gave to me. Once again, thank you so much. I'm really enjoying it. Okay, let's create a little bit of a stronger vignette in the corners, okay? I often say that the color that I like to finish my scenes off with is the same color that I used in the darkest of the imagery, okay? So I did put some dye-based ink black, okay, but this Versafine is just so much darker, so I think it'll just kind of contain the composition a little bit more with that same value of black. Alright, I think that should do it. I think it makes for a nice, kind of dramatic setting. And again, here's the folded aspect of it. Does it read as a nice composition as is? I hope so. And here we have this right here, but then fold it out. And there we have it, right there. You can fold inward or outward, you know. You can also have it like this, and someone opens up their card like that. You know, I think that would be good. Or you can have it like this. Someone gets their card and you open it up like that. So, I don't know, it kind of remains to be seen. I don't know what area that I want it in. that really reflects a lot of lighting, but this is what it looks like, a little bit more dramatic without these studio lights flooding this right here. But anyway, I really like to look at these and the feel of them, and the process is just, it's really a lot of fun kind of doing this, you know, where, you know, I'm not doing a lot of coloring, it's just shade and light, and kind of exercising that aspect of you know, scene creation. So and working as dark as that, it really you know, sometimes the smallest of marks can really you know, kind of influence the overall look of it by quite a bit, and that's really fun to do. And you can see these little stars up here, you know, how much fun they are to add in kind of a dark background like that. But nice and dramatic, and so much fun to do. So, anyways, hope you enjoyed the scene. Hope you enjoyed the process, and you know, if you have some kind of darker paper around and some white pigment ink, which most of us do, I hope you give this a try, and hope you enjoy it and have as much fun with it as I do. Thanks for watching.